visitors and tourists just aren't going to flock to Dumfries to see some new flower beds, some brushed metal benches and a grassy slope. However, I feel people would want to come and visit a creatively reimagined Whitesands, that they do want to enjoy views of the Nith, drinking in a pop-up bar, socialising in an ad hoc performance space, visiting a mini-festival or attending an outdoor concert. For me, the open parkland style of public space the proposals will see created is not the type of space which will allow this to happen, at least not satisfactorily enough for my liking. I strongly recommend, therefore, that the proposals are not allowed to go ahead and that the council go back to the drawing board. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dyson.
Thank you for that, Felix. You've done well to get through all of that, I must say. As I suppose my only question, or the only thing I'd like to tease out from you a little bit, is you've been very critical of the council scheme, which is primarily a flood protection scheme. And we talked earlier that it was that sort of defines what a lot of the space. Do you accept that many of your ideas, if the flood protection scheme wasn't there, many of your ideas would be sort of very relevant to come forward on that space, but the likelihood of that happening is probably zero if there is no flood protection scheme?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I feel my problem is with the flood protection scheme.
Connell, do you have any questions on this witness?
Mr. Waterhouse, I'm told on your online profile you describe yourself as a spiritual anarchist. What's that?
Sorry, does that go to his qualifications?
Having listened to his presentation, I'm trying to see if there's a connection.
I'm not sure that's particularly relevant. Do you want to rephrase it, maybe?
I'm a little puzzled by your presentation on behalf of Save Our Sands. You know that Save Our Sands' vision for the Whitesands is a large car park. You wouldn't agree with that, would you?
Sorry, I wouldn't agree that Save Our Sands' vision is a large car park.
No. Take it from me that that's their vision. That's not a vision you would share.
I dispute that that's Save Our Sands' vision. Currently, the Sands is what I would refer to as a void, which is an empty space. It's not full of stuff. And that's the way the Whitesands has been for a long, long time.
The reason I ask you the question is that you've got quite a lot of material in your recognition in which you, in the course of general discussion, criticise the way in which the car has been given priority and question whether that's the right way forward. But that's a bit inconsistent with an organisation which is promoting the retention of a large car park, is it not?
No, I don't think it is. And I think what I would advocate is the retention of the Whitesands as a void. That is a flat and flexible space, which is hard landscaped, which isn't covered in grass. And I think the flexibility of such a space is key to certainly what I would prefer for the Sands, and I think is what I understand Save Our Sands' vision. So I don't see there's a contradiction there at all.
Now, this inquiry is into a proposed flood protection scheme. Am I right in understanding that what you're arguing for is there not to be one?
Personally, I've got. Do you want me to tell you my opinions on the flood defences?
Let me try and rephrase that. You have lots of ideas as to what might be done with a large open space. and we've seen that set out in your recognition. If that large open space is going to flood, and perhaps potentially more often now than it does, these will be difficult in many cases to realise, will they not?
I think the question of flood defences needs to be taken on a much, much wider basis, which I imagine you will do in separate days. So, for example, I would problematise the clear felling further upstream of the Nith, and the way forestry currently happens in Dumfries and Galloway, which I feel contributes massively to the flooding of the Nith and the sands. For me as well, there are a number of other options which I haven't been here every day, so I'm not aware that these have been considered about mitigating flood damages, but these could, and I feel should be, upstream of Dumfries. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't think I answered the question very well.
No, don't worry about that. The reporters will have listened carefully to your answer. If you build a scheme as proposed, just assume that for the moment. You heard Mr. Dowson say, well, if you're going to build a scheme, probably what the designers have done is about the best they can do. You wouldn't agree with that?
Sorry, I misheard you because of the car.
Sorry, I'll give you the question again.
Yeah.
You put your microphone off. It makes
All
a
right.
bit more noise through mine. Assume you build the scheme. Just assume that for the purpose of my question. I think you heard Mr. Dowson say, well, if you build the scheme, given what you're building, then the things that are proposed for us are probably about the best you could manage. You would disagree with that, presumably. Okay, let's assume you build the scheme. Just assume that. So the basics are there, the raised walkway, the glass panels, and the walls and all the other stuff. You're critical of what is proposed to be put on that structure, aren't you?
On the wall.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't think the designers have done their best?
No.
And as somebody who's done planning, you will know that planners are encouraged to think about the incorporation of green space at the outset of a project rather than as an afterthought.
Yes.
And that's what's been done here.
Yes, but I don't feel to an acceptable standard or quality.
And you know this scheme has been subject to lots of meetings, consultations, a thing called a charrette, to take into people's views as to what should be done on that construction. You're aware of that?
Yes, I am.
So if the ideas come from there, you still don't like them?
No, I don't feel what is contained in the design proposals is in any way appropriate or represents a quality scheme for Dumfries and the people of Dumfries.
So assume the scheme is built broadly as is. You would no doubt want to offer your views to the council about the, let's just call it the surface treatments and planting, just to make it. You'd be happy to do that?
Sorry, in a professional capacity, I would be happy to offer the council my advice and expertise on the planting within the scheme. Is that what you're asking?
Let me rephrase it. The basic structures are all laid out in the order. You build the mound, you put the glass panels on top, you build the walls at different places. We know all of that. The precise details of what you plant, or if you plant, according to your view, where you plant, can be sorted out during the detailed design of these surfaces. Agreed? And if you have strong views on that, you could put your views into consideration with the council, couldn't you?
I think I said a number of times in my presentation that I actually personally don't believe that any arrangement of planting is appropriate, because I don't believe the proposals are appropriate. So yes, I could contribute to a number of different consultation events and questionnaires about what the planting ends up looking like. However, I don't feel planting is appropriate or desirable for this context or site.
So if it was built, you would have it all hard landscaped?
Yep. As a garden designer and an ecologist, I don't feel that green space is particularly appropriate or desirable for the Whitesands.
Bear with me a minute, Mark. Would it surprise you to know that the proposed beds on the approach to the Devergilla Bridge were proposed by HES?
Is that Historic Environment Scotland? Not particularly, no.
I have nothing further now.
I don't really have any questions. Most of the questions have been asked and answered, but I could just wish to clarify, is there any conflict in the views you've expressed about the scheme and the position that's been taken by Whitesands in terms of the retention of the parking? Just thinking of the parking element, not thinking of it as a void or anything like that, but does the parking present a problem to you?
I don't feel so. Personally, I park in the car park at the Sands when I want to be in Dumfries Town Centre. It's how I access Dumfries Town Centre. So I am a user, I'm a keen user of the current car parking facilities. Personally, I feel that the car park at the Sands provides a lot of footfall and provides a lot of access for people who use cars to come into Dumfries to access the existing shops at the Sands and Friars Vennel and the High Street.
Sorry, I was meaning visually as a landscape garden designer. Does the retention of car parking present you with a conflict in your conflicting position in relation to Whitesands?
No, I don't think so. I think this idea of the multi-storey car park is actually what I would advocate for. And whilst I don't find car parks particularly attractive, I feel there is a very coherent sense of continuity as the Whitesands as a flat and empty place which enables you to see the river. So I don't find the current car park attractive. However, I feel it brings people to the riverside. It keeps all the views open. So whilst I wouldn't ever say a car park is attractive, I still feel the current car parking has a historical continuity with the Whitesands as it's operated historically in Dumfries.
Mr. Dowson, do you have any further questions for your witness?
I don't think so, Felix. I'd just like to thank Felix for his efforts. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We are quite a bit ahead of schedule, so it would be looking like tomorrow morning we would pull forward from Thursday the council's witnesses. So that would be Catherine Kidd first, then Graham Peart, then Susan Irwin. How long do you think we would fill the whole day, Mr. Connell, with those three witnesses?
Well, as they're my witnesses, they all have, I think, summary precognitions from recollection, which won't take very long to lead. I would anticipate 2 or 3 supplementary questions, possibly just at a guess for each, which I don't imagine would take a huge amount of time on top of the reading of the precognition. So not a great deal of time from this end, but of course I'm not sure what the save our Sands position.
Mr Dyson, how long would you estimate to cross-examine each of the witnesses?
Well, I would hope to be fairly brief. I would hope to certainly do 2 in the morning and perhaps 1 in the afternoon. It may be possible to do all 3 if we were quick in the morning, but I would suggest that we would be looking at certainly maybe 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
We would normally not prefer to have no downtime, but we're not particularly keen in bringing a whole week forward if that's at all possible, because we don't feel like we should be putting undue pressure on witnesses to bring their slots forward. But does anyone have any strong feelings about having downtime towards the end of the week and not sitting on Thursday and Friday?
On the practical side, as I said this morning, ma'am, I know that 2 of the witnesses had commitments this week and can't appear next week. That would mean that I think I have another 2 potentially who, in theory, could be slotted in this week if you wish to bring people forward. But I would still need to call the others next week.
Mr Dyson, could you have a think perhaps overnight about whether or not you'd be prepared to no? Okay, right. I think it's looking like we're probably going to finish early this week.
That sounds a really good idea.
So you're quite content with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we've got agreement.
Early finish for everyone tonight. We'll reconvene at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you.